live TV on the computer.
You know what I mean? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Sometimes it's hard to tell where that intro music is supposed to start and stop. I just like to loop it over
That's
and over.
good. Yeah, loop
sometimes, you know?
my crappy intro music.
We should have pointed that out last time, Audrey. You've made the music and all of
I
our
made that
art for
crappy
this.
music. Yes.
So welcome to the fourth space. Oh my God, episode 2. I think we got the live stream off a little smoother than last week. So that's been really good. My name is Raymond Wiley.
I'm Audra Wolfman. And this time the stream is going through on Instagram and Substack and Facebook. I think we got all the places this time.
We are in 6 places. We're not quite the octopus yet, but we insectoid style. We've got 6
good
places we're broadcasting to live. So, Audra, tonight's episode, the occult.
Oh, my friggin' ears.
Should I be louder next time about
this? Yes.
So,
and we have echo.
Oh, fair.
Yeah. So
fair.
We have a really good guest on the topic of occult.
Yeah, my friend Ken Eakins, he runs the Right Where You're Sitting Now podcast, YouTube channel. He's a filmmaker, and he's just sort of occult MC, an expert on these spooky sorts of topics. What did you think, Audra?
Oh, he's a pro. He's been doing it forever, and it was really special to get to talk to him. And if anyone has not checked out his show, I highly recommend you do. He's got amazing interviews with some pretty important characters in the occulture world.
That's right. And we're going to talk about the occulture, which is probably a word people haven't heard very much. We're going to talk about that a little bit tonight. But I got to tell you, Audra, I sort of unwittingly was like doing some occult prep for today's episode. So, I had done some acoustic treatment here in the room, though you couldn't tell it last week on our show. And it got me thinking about my home theater. And so I have this friend that's a fellow audiophile. He sent me a surround sound mix of Tears for Fears songs from the big chair. Okay. So I sat down over here in my big chair and put it on the home theater. And I realized 5 speakers like the pentagram, and I'm in the middle, and all sorts of stuff's happening. So while I don't normally, banish on the pentagram or whatever, apparently I was doing a little of that with Tears for Fears this afternoon. So
a banishing ritual, Tears for Fears. Yeah. My cats and we just drew a pentagram in blood on the kitchen floor.
Man, I am not hardcore enough for this show.
Yeah, you're fired.
That's all right. We'll get some more weaving in here to replace me or something. I don't know what to tell you.
I think ultimately it sounds like we're just talking about the culture that appears in horror films at the moment. But in real life person.
That's right.
Yeah, and I feel like most of our listeners are going to be plugged into some form of a culture if they're listening to us.
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean,
you're
we don't
spooky,
want to
right?
Absolutely. And like you were saying, we don't want to talk down, but like at the same time, the entryway for someone initially is often something that has to do with pop culture. For me, it was documentaries I saw on A&E. Do you remember the first time you heard the word occult or the occult or anything like that?
Yeah. It was library books. I was really into reading about ghosts. So, but yes, that's probably where I learned the word. And then after that would be 100% A&E documentaries.
There it is. Yeah, like I think we were talking about this a little in the interview. A&E and History Channel, they bought a bunch of programming, I guess, from BBC and Channel 4 in the 80s and 90s just to sort of fill out their programming.
Yeah.
And I'm in about the 6th grade, and I see this documentary called The Poet, the Priest, and the Devil. And it's Henry Lincoln, and it's all about the Rennes-le-Chateau mystery and a lot of the stuff that eventually became the source material for the Da Vinci Code later on, right? And
Okay.
I remember seeing the pentagram there, and that was the first I had heard of the term the occult, or seen like a circle with a star in it. And I remember sitting there in 6th grade class, like I'm drawing the star, and I'm like, do I dare draw a circle around it?
Yeah.
So
Hardcore. Yeah, you gotta, I guess that's the right age to carve it into your desk and pretend you're listening to Slayer when actually you're still listening to MC Hammer.
it's true. It's true. Those
I
were the
see
years.
you. Yeah.
I feel seen in not the good way right now, Audra. So here in a minute, we're going to cut to because Ken, like most cool occult people, like lives in England. Because of that, like it would be so late for him to come on live. We had to pre-record this interview. However, the cast of this podcast will be sitting in all the comment sections while the interview is running. So we hope you'll kind of chat with us a little bit. And we've got that QR code to our that way. We got the QR code to our Discord up there as well. And so if you want to join us in our Discord channel, we're going to be chatting throughout, and we're going to be hanging out a little bit after the show. So
yeah, and if you make any comments or have questions, we're going to try to address them at the end when we're done playing the interview. If not, we'll see you in the Discord.
That's exactly right. So we'll be keeping an eye on it. Audra, any other thoughts before we get into the Ken Eakins interview today?
Yeah, I think we just talked about Occulture without defining it, which is okay.
Let's do it. No, Ken dings us for this as well. Do you want to try to define it right now, or do you want to just jump in?
I'll try.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's where spirituality affects culture. That would be like the simplest way of looking at it. And spirituality ultimately being whatever it is to you. As we'll talk about in the interview with him, there's kind of like a range of political identities that go with that. And for me, personally, I think it was a culture before it was like, oh, I want to join a magical fraternal order. I was first had to hear about this kind of thing. I had to especially like appreciate the artists like Marjorie Cameron or Hilma af Klint or I could only think of female ones right now. I guess
it's okay. I mean, I can name a few people that influenced me early on. Maybe like a Richard Cavendish or a Gary Lackman.
Oh, sure.
For example, would be a couple for me that were kind of like doorways into not only the occulture, but the different periods in time where the occulture was really having more of an influence, having its biggest influence. So. Yeah,
and that would be post Blondie.
Yes,
Gary Lockman,
known as Gary Valentine. When you look at the back of your Blondie album,
but he was into it then too.
He was. Yeah. So, man, I'm excited for this. You ready to get into this thing?
Yeah, I'm into it.
Which
is good. Okay. All right. Enjoy the interview, everyone.
Okay, we are back here on the Fourth Space, and man, so excited! We got our first interviewee for the show on my old friend Ken Eakins. Man, Ken, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm a bit tired. It's in the evening here, but yeah, it's other than that, I'm good.
That's good. It's good to have you on, Ken. We've been through a lot together over the years. Mm-hmm. We've appeared on each other's podcasts. I visited you in England. I even did grad school there in the town that you live in. You were kind of a neighbor for me for a while. And you've had me on a lot of your shows like Coincidence Control Network and most recently the Mauve Zone. And, when me and Audra and Ian were laying out this show, you're the first person we wanted to have on. So it's great to have you here today.
Aiming low to start with.
There you go. Just showing some respect, my friend. Showing some respect. So, we've been podcasting a long time. I've just passed my 20th year in the field, and I met you early on when you started doing your show right where you're sitting now. And we're going to talk about that a little bit today. But as I understand it, before digital media and podcasting was quite such a thing, you were like a musician. Is that right?
Yeah. I was in post-hardcore bands, and sort of it's kind of like artsy punk bands, basically. Like Fugazi, Shellac, that kind of thing. Yeah, pretentious punk, as my friend likes to call it.
Was that your entryway into performing?
I guess so. Yeah. I wasn't like an actor or anything before that. So yeah, I guess I was just. It's the easiest type of band to start as a punk band. So you immediately have a whole scene built in straight away. It's really good. So you don't have to do so much work, which is kind of good. So yeah, I'm quite lazy when it comes to that sort of thing. But
that's really cool. And like you were saying with the punk, you've got the circuit. So I imagine you got to tour quite a bit throughout the UK and Europe, even without having like a hit record or anything like that.
Yeah, you could. I think it's the same over there. There's like the DIY circuit, they call it. We did a lot of that, and we did a lot of like we put our own shows on. I had my own label, and then I don't know why I'm pushing that in. I can't hear anything for these earphones, but anyway, sorry. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so we kind of put our own shows on and did lots of what they call show swapping with other promoters and things like that. So it was quite easy. That was the good thing about it. It was back then. It was easy to play shows. These days, it's not as easy. I don't think. I think there's less venues now and less DIY gigs happening. But back then it was easy. It was kind of an easy thing to do, and fun.
And so you were like a punk rock kid when you were going to school, and did you feel sort of other or?
No, I became a punk rock kid later.
Punk rock adult.
Yeah, I was more into. Originally, I was into like the B-52s. You're from your neck of the woods, and then Adamant and stuff like that when I was a kid, and then I got into metal a lot, really into metal, and then really into like weird. I sort of went from metal into like Mr. Bungle. I became obsessed. Well, I'm still obsessed with Mr. Bungle.
Yeah,
pretty cool.
Mike Patton and John Zorn and all those sorts of things. I got really into that world, and then Shellac and Fugazi, and then I thought, oh, that's a lot easier sounding to play than Mr. Bungle, so I'll play music like that. Yeah, it's all laziness really when it comes to music, but it's fun. I did it. It was more for fun. It was never really a serious career ambition.
Yeah, well, far be it from us to criticize the path of least resistance.
So it might seem a strange journey from hardcore rock band to occult podcaster, but I don't think that's weird at all.
No, personally. I think one informed the other actually. And actually, if you look at Sitting Now, like all the art style and everything, it's very zine-y. I was very affected by like zine culture and all that kind of stuff when I was in a band, and so all the kind of imagery for Sitting Now is very kind of inspired by zines and collages and all that kind of stuff. So, and the way I kind of ran Sitting Now, because when you were doing it as well, it wasn't really a thing. No one really knew what podcasting was, so it was kind of, you could kind of just wing it back then.
That's right. That's right. You had to explain what the word meant before you even explained what your podcast was. You're like what's that?
Like a radio show on the internet. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
what year was it that you started?
2008 we started. I think you guys started 2006 or 7, didn't you? A couple of years
That's
before.
Right at the end of 05, actually.
Oh, right. Okay.
So,
And then, but there wasn't very many occult podcasts. Then there was like 2 others. I think there was a Cult of Personality, which is still going. I've been incorrectly saying that I'm the longest running occult podcast, but I'm not anymore. I'm wrong. It's actually a Cult of Personality. Greg Kaminsky. Yeah. And there was the Viking Youth Power Hour, who I'm friends with Brian. He's been on our show a few times, and they're really good.
Thelema Coast to Coast. That was another one.
John
Crow's podcast.
Yeah.
And Ian, I actually met John many times at the Fragrant Plantation when we were growing, we were teenagers, the local occult bookshop, he'd show up. He would have ordered something like The Law is for All by Aleister Crowley. And we've got the special order for him, and he'd roll up. So it's such a small world, Ken, with this particular area of interest.
You had Alan Greenfield in your town as well, didn't you? I think.
I never met Alan, but many of my colleagues in Athens and many of the other members of the pagan student group I was involved with, they knew who he was and had met him. He's on your show quite a bit now, isn't he?
I do a Patreon. I'm going to start plugging already. I do a Patreon exclusive podcast that's only available on Patreon with Alan Greenfield called the Greenfield Files, which we do once a month. It's like you get it if you give me money.
Great advertisement there.
Yeah, give me money and I'll give you Alan. Yeah,
you get access to Alan Greenfield. That's cool. Yeah. That's really cool. I think maybe there's something about the South, that part of America, where like there's just this extra religious pressure on a lot of people, so they end up kind of going the other way. Maybe I don't know sometimes.
There's a famous social media Thelemite, Mavius Lynn, I think her name is. I think she might be from the South as well. I'm not sure. Yeah, and Richard Kaczynski, I think he's from down there. There's a lot of Thelemites in that area, it seems.
So how did that transition happen from the band to basically being a broadcaster, which is a lot of what you are now? Yeah.
I went to university after the band broke up, and then I did criminology originally. I did everything the wrong way around. So I did my master's degree first, which is really stupid. And I did criminology. And then I was like, well, that's not really, I don't want to lecture. I should probably go back and do a bachelor's degree and actually do something useful. So I did journalism and sort of learned a lot about video doing that and film and stuff. And we could go to like film classes if we wanted to, like as extra credit, I guess. So I used to go to the film classes sometimes, and but I sort of got into audio recording through that, I suppose. And I was like, oh, it's actually not as difficult as I thought it was going to be to do it. And then podcasting kind of appeared. And I started a podcast at university called A Romanian Werewolf in Farnham, which was three of us just talking absolute garbage. And it did surprisingly well. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. I should probably do it about something I'm actually interested in. And I was interested in the occult. I had been for a long time at that point. So I thought, oh, I'll do an occult podcast. And then thought, damn it, there's this other podcast from Georgia that's already doing kind of what I want to do. We
scooped you, Ken.
Yeah, you scooped you. Hit me to the post. But then I had them on my first show, so I kind of, did my due diligence.
That's it. Well, I think you might be selling yourself even from the beginning short there, because you have the interest level in the occult as a central topic is much more signature of your work. And because you've been able to stay on just that one topic area year after year, like you have built up these connections and a depth of understanding and an ability to be a sort of, I don't know, like an occult MC in a lot of ways. When did that interest first hit you?
I think it was a really common story. I got really into Robert Anton Wilson. And I was always into like Lovecraft and stuff like that. I was always interested in occulty kind of stuff. But actually, some of it was probably, I used to live in Saudi Arabia as well, and the sort of script, the sort of look of Saudi Arabia, the kind of, a lot of magic comes from there, doesn't it? So from the Middle East. So I guess I was kind of culturally primed for it a little bit as well. I just like the look of the Middle East, and a lot of the occult stuff looks Middle Easty, doesn't it? So it's so I was drawn to it that way as well, aesthetically.
How did you end up there?
My stepfather worked for Saudi Airlines. I think he was designing the airport. It was doing something to do with the airport. So we ended up living in Jeddah for a while, which is right next to Mecca. So I used to be quite annoying. I'd be watching TV shows. They're really into their religion there, and you'd be watching a television show, and it would just suddenly cut off, and you'd see the cardboard, the box, for about half an hour, and he'd be like, "For fuck's sake, ruining my Batman."
Oh my God, my dad talks the same way about in the 60s. His dad would like force him to go to church like on Sunday night to an extra service. And he'd be able to tell you even 60 years later, he can tell you exactly what was playing on TV that he missed because
it's very frustrating.
It is. Mm-hmm. So
Adam West, it was Adam West Batman. I had big chunks missing from the episodes that I've seen.
You can watch them all now. Catch up.
Get the Blu-ray. Yeah.
Shark repellent reference.
That's right. So I can remember for me, like there were a certain like few just key works that I remember like really opening the door to that, even that word occult. One of them being like Henry Lincoln documentaries from the 70s that were getting rerun. The Poet, the Priest, and the Devil, and a few others.
Raiders of the Lost Ark. That's a classic
Raiders.
one.
Okay, there you go. Are there things like that for you, where you can remember certain works that really stand out, like you said, Robert Anton Wilson? Or
yeah, Bob Wilson was the big one because he spoke about Crowley all the time, and that got me interested in Crowley. And then I had this weird dream, like strange dream. I think I've spoken about it before, but. In the dream, someone kept saying, it kept saying you need to talk to IWAS. And I was like, what the hell's IWAS? And I didn't know what it was. And then I started reading, I don't think it was Wilson. I think I got Magic in Theory and Practice, the little mini version of book 4. And and it has the Book of the Law in it. And I was like, there's IWAS. So that was a bit strange. So lots of like strange synchronicities and dream. I'm quite... I guess very visual person, so I think you seem to get two different types of occultists, like people that just like the discipline of it and people that kind of have experiences with it. I tend to be the latter. I enjoy that side of it, the kind of trying to speak to other things. If that makes sense.
Okay.
The more cosmic aspect.
Let's start unpacking. You said a lot here in the past 1 minute. And let's start unpacking some of those things and maybe take a little tour of just a very 101 kind of tour of what a lot of people would refer to as occultism. So what is the Golden Dawn?
Oh God, that's I mean, they're kind of like, I guess they're the kind of people that popularized what we call the Western esoteric tradition these days. So like there are a bunch of Masons that combined a bunch of different esoteric practices into a system, and they're the kind of the first in the West, I think, to do that properly. I mean, Blavatsky did it as well, Helena Blavatsky with Theosophy, but it's different. If you think about Crowley and magic and all this kind of stuff, it really sources from the Golden Dawn, really. And they had this profound impact on that's still, they're still kind of the baseline for a lot of magic today. Really, I mean, a lot of people won't admit that, but they are, their systems. They brought Kabbalah in, they brought in like even the lesser banishing ritual, the pentagram, all sorts of things like that comes sources at the Golden Dawn. And they had members like Aleister Crowley, obviously, who's a big, the rock star of the occult. I think Bram Stoker was a member. I can't remember. People like that, they had kind of William Butler Yeats. They had, all kinds of people. Dion Fortune.
So sort of like
Victorian
free
era is important as well, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So Victorian era, yeah. So at the time, it was kind of quite controversial, I suppose, to start a group like that. But the other thing that was interesting about them, because they were Masons, they accepted women as well. So that was quite a big change as well with them. So they're one of not the first, but they're one of the first of that kind to have men and women as members. So you had a female dynamic, and which is very important if you look at things like Tantra. A lot of the kind of source material is sort of lifted from things like Tantra, Taoism, and things like that, which is very feminine, feminine divine centric.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like there's a little bit of what at the time they would have called Orientalism.
Mm-hmm.
We would.
It's all the way through magic. All the way through magic. Yeah. The more you read
that thing about living in Saudi Arabia, you were just talking about that. That feels like your version of that same attraction to that other part of the world.
Yeah. I guess the difference is I was actually there, unlike a lot of the people there.
And the information they were receiving about Egypt and the Middle East in general, it was kind of hearsay, right? It's sort of
well, it's filtered through the biases of colonies and things like that. So It was especially Blavatsky was really bad at that. So Blavatsky claimed to go. I mean, she's a chronic liar. If you look at the actual biography, she claimed to go to Tibet and places like that, and
climb mountains,
all sorts of things. And
in her physical condition,
she sort of cleansed Tantra to make it a bit more kind of Western friendly, and took out a lot of the kind of quite interesting stuff, really, and sort of a lot of the early stuff is. I mean, the new stuff that's coming out now is much more interesting because it's much more based on the original Tantra, the original Taoism, all this kind of stuff. So I'm actually a bit more interested in that these days, if I'm honest. That's what I read the most now. It's Tantra and Taoism seem to be the two. They're basically like the root of most of magic, if you get into it.
Okay. So you brought up Aleister Crowley, and he's like you mentioned with Helena Blavatsky. Problematic biography.
Oh yeah.
Definitely would be canceled these days if he were around, for sure.
I don't know if he would be as controversial these days, though. I think about this a lot. He's probably not that controversial. He's like an OnlyFans girl now, isn't he? I mean, if you look at his, in a way, or he's like a Kardashian or something like that. He's like he's probably wouldn't be. Yeah, I mean, the sort of stuff that would have been shocking then these days is, the internet would just go.
He might not have been able to break ground with that sort of material. He might have just had to go on to like mountain climbing tutorials.
Yeah. 5 things you didn't know about K2.
That's right. I mean, and it is weird to think that he did have some interesting adventures there, mountain climbing and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, he wasn't so good to his Sherpas, was he? So, they didn't. A lot of them didn't come back
just for that. That's all I got to say. He'd be canceled by me just for that. However, an interesting guy, and founds a couple of his own groups. Right? Falls out. What does he fall out with the Golden Dawn? What happened there?
I think it's been so long since I've read the history of them. I know he tried to take over the London Lodge, didn't he? And turned up in full Scottish regalia, and quite famously. And there was like an incident. It didn't go down well, basically, and he ended up leaving the Golden Dawn. I think he was sort of like acting on the orders of MacGregor Mathers, who's one of the founding members. So he goes off and starts his own thing called the AA. Astrum Argentum, and then takes over a fraternal group called the ATO, Ordo Templi Orientis, and we can talk about them if you want, but they're kind of still going to this day. The Golden Dawn's sort of going to this day, but it's not really the Golden Dawn. That's a controversial opinion there, but most people don't really think it's the Golden Dawn. But the ATO, there's a lineage at least, and well, again, there's always lineage controversies with occultists, so like they're quite fussy about it. But the ATO. So there's 2 very different groups. So the ATO is a fraternal order, and they're not really a teaching order per se. They just do initiations and something called the Gnostic Mass. There's no syllabus that's built into it, other than the initiations and the Gnostic Mass. And then the AA is a master student progression system. So you have you technically you're only ever meant to meet your master, and and then you take on a student, and then it sort of goes that way. But I think they all know who each other are, from what I can tell. They're sure like telling people in the OTO that they're in the AA. Let's put it that way. Yeah,
so they're like the Jedis, the Jedi Crowleyites. So
they sure act like they are. They think they are. A lot of them, but yeah, fine. At least, they're doing like a syllabus, I suppose. And whereas the ATO, you have, I mean, there are meetings, and you can have like, if you have a good lodge master or whatever, they'll arrange events or talks or whatever. But it's really not a teaching order, the ATO, whereas the AA is. So that's the difference.
And as I understand it, that's if people who get into occultism, that's if they end up participating in an organization or a group, oftentimes it will be something like the OTO or the
OTO
AA.
is one of the bigger ones. Yeah. I mean, OTO or AMORC, or there's some theosophy groups still going. But yeah, OTO is the kind of famous one, I suppose. It's, they become Masons, I guess. They're pretty big as well, but not particularly esoteric. So I suppose the OTO is probably the biggest esoteric fraternity, at least, out there at the moment, I'd say.
We'll say in their heyday, these types of groups, these sort of post-Masonic esoteric orders, do you think they represented true countercultures?
When?
Well, pick them at their height. You can just take each at their height.
So the ATO, I mean, the ATO started off as like in Germany as there were lots of different kind of esoteric fraternities going on around then. So they were just one of, I guess they were counterculture in the sense that they incorporated, I think they were the only one, maybe the only one to incorporate sex magic as a kind of sexual element into their initiations structure, I suppose, or in what they did. So I suppose you could call that countercultural, but really, I suppose the counterculture side of the ATO really happens in the 60s, isn't it? Around because the kind of hippie kind of culture picks up Crowley because they see him as a transgressive figure, which is kind of ironic because Crowley's not particularly hippie friendly, really. If you look at his actual biography, I had Tobias Churton's been on our show quite a few times, and he's written, I would say, the kind of the gold standard of Crowley biographies. He's written, I think, 5 books, like one big biography and then a bunch of sort of ones looking at specific periods of Crowley's life. And he referred to him as a high Tory, a high conservative, which is, so he's very, he was very conservative about certain things, but actually quite progressive sometimes as well. So that a lot of people don't know he went on black rights marches and things later in his life and things like that. So I think he started to sort of atone for his conservative Victorian behavior, but
maybe a bit of a libertarian that we would have here now.
Yeah, I don't know what he'd be these days. I often wonder what he'd be these days. Would he be an Andrew Tate type, maybe?
Aye.
Or an esoteric
Particular Crowley. That's right.
Oh, God, yeah. A cult Maxim.
Oh, no.
You
smash my third eye with the hammer till it's ripped.
Yeah.
That's right.
He's a strange guy, clavicular, isn't he? But yeah, he's I don't understand that looks Maxim thing. It's very strange. But then maybe that's the new counterculture. Who knows?
Oh gosh, it's terrible to think that that's what's
all
happening.
Those kids.
Yeah.
Now, you brought up the '60s counterculture, and like you were saying, Aleister Crowley might be more the type to beat you with the billy club than to march next to you at the protest. At least in some parts of his life, certainly. What is it about occultism and the hippie stuff that melds together so well? You mentioned a sort of contrarian streak. Is there more to it than that?
I think a lot of it's just to do with, because a lot of the hippie movement was about transgression, wasn't it? And obviously in the 60s, you're coming out of a very Christian heavy era. and it's the obvious kind of counter to that, isn't it? It's okay to a point. It's not illegal anymore to practice paganism and things like that. And I mean, you saw a lot. They call it a magical revival, don't they? That kind of
Okay,
era. So it's kind of like, so a lot of these groups were being rediscovered, and people like Crowley were kind of rediscovered through some not very nice biographies at the time. So I think
it's some very sensational books coming, especially in the English press, the British press. And
he left his estate. He left his estate for some reason to a guy called John Simmons, who really didn't like Crowley. It turns out, and wrote a bunch of books slandering Crowley, and really, I mean, slandering him quite intensely. I mean, a lot of the reason people think he's this super evil guy, the wickedest man in the world, all this kind of thing, is because it was played up so much for John Simmons's books. If you actually read about Crowley properly, he's not as, I mean, he did some pretty wild stuff, but he's not quite the Satanist, that he was labeled as for quite a long time.
But he did court the press during his life, and it kind of is
precedent. That's why I say he's a Kardashian. Yeah, he loved it. Yeah. So he loved a bit of attention. I think often it would probably be because he became quite broke towards the end of his life, and I think if he could kind of attract people to pay his bills, that would probably be prudent to him at the time. He was he had no qualms in taking donations later in life, but and he was cremated just up the road from me.
Oh,
there you go.
Did he have a sort of cult following as he got older? People living around him and sort of taking care of him, or
not really? No, he was living in Hastings, which is about an hour down the road from me, and in a retirement home called Netherwood. It doesn't exist anymore. There's Netherwood Road.
Wow.
Exists. And he was taking donations from OTO members. I think that's
Jack Parsons and the parsonage were kind of keeping him going.
Yeah, I think they were pretty much keeping the OTO going at that point. There wasn't a lot of OTO action going on then.
It was the only one in America, that's for sure.
Yeah. Kenneth Grant kind of restarted it with some other people and in the UK. Well, he ran it in the UK at least for a while until he's another character. I don't know. I'm way more interested in Kenneth Grant these days than Crowley, if I'm honest.
Fair.
He's a super interesting character, but but I lost my point there. Sorry.
No, well, let's pick up on Kenneth Grant, because he sort of lives in between, or he does a lot of his work in between the counterculture and the internet revolution. He can kind of maybe bridge that gap for us a little bit in the narrative.
A little bit. Well, he kind of, when I was in the OTO, he was kind of a bit, depending on who you spoke to, he was a bit of a joke. People didn't like him very much. I think to this day, there's still a strain in the OTO that still think that. But he was Crowley's secretary for a while, as was Israel Regardie, another person that published books about Crowley, and I think edited some of his works early on or something. But yeah, he was his later secretary, and they kind of fell out. But then he somehow ended up running the UK version of the OTO for a while. But he became really interested in what he calls the Typhonian tradition, which was, or he was sort of forced to legally call it the Typhonian tradition later, but that's another story. But it was the Typhonian OTO for a while. But he started to, his theory, at least one of his big theories, and this is the thing that kind of puts a lot of people off him, was that the work of H.P. Lovecraft was magically received through dream. And so he started to incorporate Lovecraft style rituals into OTO practices, and was eventually kicked out for it because it was, you don't, that one thing I didn't like so much about the OTO was the everything stops at Crowley. You can't build on it. You can't do anything other than what Crowley says. It's very rare if anything new gets added.
No room for Cthulhu.
Yeah, no room for Cthulhu, no room for Nyarlathotep or any of these interesting characters. Yeah. but yeah, so Grant goes off and starts his own version of the OTO called the Typhonian OTO. For a long time, it remained very obscure. It didn't have a great deal of members, but he wrote a whole series of books that you probably can't see them. I've got them all up here somewhere. Yeah, and they're wild. They're some of the wildest magic books you'll ever read. They're just cosmic-y, crazy books that I just find them really fascinating. But yeah, he's just this interesting, wild character. And then for some reason, over the last 5 or 6 years, he's suddenly become really popular, which is interesting. With people, the occulture, as it's called, has changed quite dramatically, I'd say, over the last 5 years. And there's a whole new group of people getting into the occult, and for some reason, a lot of them are getting into it via Kenneth Grant rather than Crowley, which is interesting. Yeah.
Well, you hit on Occulture. Oh, sorry about that.
Go ahead, Audra.
Oh, I was just saying you hit upon Occulture, and I know that's really important to your podcast. And so I had just questions about that, about how counterculture fits in with Occulture.
I don't know if the counterculture exists anymore. I think it died. I suppose you'd say now the counterculture is the right, isn't it? I mean, that seems to be what was counter to the. I think the left became mainstream, didn't it? And then so what does the counterculture become? It naturally has to go to the other side. So unfortunately, it feels like the counterculture's gone very right wing these days, or very libertarian at least. And yeah, so I don't know if the counterculture exists anymore. I know the occulture certainly exists, and that's having its own issues with that as well. Lots of magical characters, for some bizarre reason, are very pro-Trump, it seems, and very pro-anti-trans and all of that kind of stuff, which is very strange because I could go on about this for hours, why I think this is strange, but we've done whole Mozone episodes about it. But yeah, it's weird. It's like turkeys vying for Christmas, isn't it? A little bit, in my opinion. Yeah, it's strange.
Right. I mean, I can't help but think of something like Psychic TV or Genesis, Peorage, and just how a lot of these subcultures and a lot of these other ways of living your life, approaching your life, have been just normal in the occulture for a long time. So I'm with you. It is strange how it's taken that, in a lot of ways, taken that turn. You know,
it's weird because a lot of the stuff that they're kind of defending, these people I'm talking about, is it's kind of libertarian right wing, which traditionally has always been aligned with the church, and the church traditionally always hated and destroyed the culture. So it's like, that's why I say it's like turkeys vying for Christmas. It's like, do they think they're gonna somehow be spared or something? I don't get it. It's to me it's crazy, and it's not very I've always felt that magic and the occulture has always been very I guess liberal, I suppose, and sort of progressive to a degree. So it's very strange to me that that it's going the other way with so many people as well. There's quite podcasters as well, podcasters and magicians and authors, and it's happening all over. It's very strange. It makes no sense.
Is that the difference you were talking about especially online with people who are in the occult?
I think the news
now and the past. Yeah,
I think the difference now is that traditionally there's always been gatekeepers of the occult. So it would normally be authors. If you had a book out, you were like, a big deal. These days it's less that, I'd say. I mean, we interview authors a lot. That's only because they've written a book and they're interesting. But really the people that kind of, I mean, if you look at like TikTok, for example, there's witch talk. There's this huge movement on TikTok of this new movement of the occult, and the old guard are all go, oh, social media. It's like, well, grow up. It's like it's huge now. Social media. It's how people communicate. So you're seeing all these old gatekeepers sort of like stewing in the past and losing people left, right, and centre. So maybe that's why they're going right wing. They're like, oh, I don't know, but I don't know. It's, for me, it's great, because I'm on the internet, so it's been really interesting to watch, and I think it's great. I think it's the way all cultures are going to survive really now is by being embraced by a younger, more online kind of online savvy kind of thing. And I think like a lot of these older groups like the OTO and stuff are going to have to really learn to adapt to it, otherwise they're just going to perish as well.
And you bring
doom
up
and gloom.
This way we're going to interact with each other, especially in the age of social media. I know you've got a film studio, your own little project, the Hangman Films.
Oh yeah, that's just the name I use for my film stuff that I do. But I used to actually have an actual studio at one point, but I couldn't afford it anymore. So and then we got kicked out of the last one. Actually, it wasn't I couldn't afford it. We had this really cool building in an old college, and then the college decided they didn't want us there anymore, so they moved us out, which is a shame. But yeah, no, I do film stuff, and that I just tend to call that Hangman Films, just because it's it's easier to invoice that way. But, you need a name. Yeah, it's like a brand, I suppose, or but I edit a lot. That's my main income.
Okay. Now I can't help but wonder, because you have your small page. Like we had earlier this year, there was a social media influencer. I think his name is Markiplier, and he did his own little self-funded movie, and it actually did very well. Do you think that that's going to be a trend moving forward of like the age of the superhero movie and the big blockbuster might be waning, and you're going to have more independent filmmakers that kind of come out of the community being able to produce?
That would be good. I mean, it happened by accident last time, though. I'm a bit of a film nerd, so if you think about the last big boom of indie film, it was like Scorsese, Spielberg, all those sort of people. But that was only because the studio heads at the time all died, basically, and their kids took over and didn't know what they were doing, and accidentally let people like Coppola and Scorsese and all these sorts of people make their films. So I don't know how realistic that happening again is, but I think there's quite a big indie scene already, in terms of there's, especially in Europe. I mean, France and places like that. I mean, they're producing movies all the time, but England sucks. If you want to be a filmmaker in England, it really sucks. We just make films for you guys. That's basically our entire industry is servicing Hollywood. Basically, there's very few actual British films that come out. A lot of them look like British films, but they're funded by Hollywood and they're sort of influenced by Hollywood. So a lot of big British films, like everyone was going, "Oh, The King's Speech, it was such a big film." It's like, it's a Hollywood film. It's just set in England.
Yeah. Or The Dig would be one that's popping to my mind.
Oh, I love that movie.
It's great.
I don't think I've seen it. The Dig.
The Dig. Yeah, it's on Netflix, and it's about they founding the Sutton Hoo treasure hoard and the buried Viking ship. It's very good. It's really good.
You see, I'm skillfully muting and unmuting my microphone.
Yeah.
Years of practice. Years of practice.
That's it. I've been sneaking them myself. It's hard when you're just sitting here getting into a good conversation, right? Mm-hmm. So Ian, like, growing up, having known you growing up, like we never talked about things like the occult and the woo stuff, the spooky stuff very much. What are some of your reactions to these conversations we're having in this interview today? You got anything you want to ask Ken about?
We haven't really
want to offend anyone.
We haven't really sort of said what it is, though, have we yet? Really, I've just spoken about the people, but no one's really. We haven't actually mentioned anything. This is often what gets. I see this in interviews all the time. So I'm trying to break against this a bit. People never actually talk about what you do as an occultist a lot of the time. They just talk about Crowley a lot and how scandalous he was. But yeah, I mean, maybe that's something we should look at. But I don't know. It's your show.
No.
Yeah, explain it to me.
You're
make sure I'm not misunderstanding these things.
That's it. Tell Ian, what is it that you do as an occultist? What is it that occultists do?
I think the best way I always start explaining this is people always know with that saying that Crowley said, "Do what thou wilt" should be the whole of the law, and I think a lot of people think that means do what you want should be the whole of the law, and it really isn't. I think personally, my own take on this, and I know it's a bunch of people's take, is that it's not that different to Christianity in some ways. It's about communion with the divine. That's really what it's about. If you're doing it seriously, you're trying to make contact with the divine. And really, that's kind of what Christianity is about, right? It's like you're just doing it a different way. So really, it's kind of, there's not a great difference. The end goal is kind of the same in some ways. It's, you're just using different rituals and different, practices to kind of achieve that, really. And that's the way I see it anyway.
It's the access point. It's how it's your journey there.
Different path to the same destination. That's kind of what it feels like to me anyway. The years and years I've been looking into this stuff, it's like, I don't, I think a lot of people have the wrong idea of what it actually is. There's, I think that they think there's lots of goat slaying going on or whatever, but really, although Crowley did slay a goat in the desert, but actually there was a guy, I don't know, did you ever hear about the guy, you were in the OTO in San Francisco, where was he? I'm trying to remember. There was a famous member of the OTO that he ended up becoming part of the Charlottesville incident. A guy called Augustus Sol Invictus. Have you ever heard of him?
Yeah, I've heard that name. Wait.
I can't remember which...
Go on.
He sort of lost the plot. He basically went out into the desert, did some grand ritual, like I think he called it the Black Pilgrimage or something like that, and wrote a book and then sent this kind of letter to all the like Longfellow Duquette and Bill Breeze and all these sort of high up members of the OTO and AA, saying this is Class A in Crowley world. Class A text means kind of mystically received text. He basically proclaimed that he should be taken seriously, and then wasn't, and then left, and then ran for I think he ran for a libertarian candidate somewhere, and then allegedly kidnapped his daughter and wife, and went to prison and all sorts of things. So he was a bad example. He's the sort of example of kind of a bad occultist, I suppose, in that sense.
Hey, but it gets us in the news, right? Mm-hmm. Gets the OTO in the news.
All press is good press.
Well, Crowley would have said so.
Mm-hmm.
Not now.
He would have been disappointed, I think. But I think really it's a series of practices and rituals, and that really are all about kind of union with the divine. That's the way I look at it nowadays. And do what thou will, meaning that union with the divine. And you should always be, Crowley's version would be that you should always be focusing your kind of intentions upon that union with the divine. And he spoke about something called the Holy Guardian Angel, which is basically that, it's what he considered to be the most important, I think, magical progression, I suppose you'd call it. This kind of this idea of union with this entity that gives you a divine experience and divine advice. I suppose that's the way I look at it. But, lots of people have different interpretations of it, and I'm sure you're going to get someone go, "Oh, Ken's an idiot." It happens all the time. I'm used to it.
That's the thing with this system, is that there's room for this, because you're saying connection with the divine. I would say connection with your higher self. Possibly the same exact thing. Right?
Yeah. I mean, awakening's another word I see a lot. It's you see it in Buddhism, Tantra. It's what's the other word? Enlightenment, I suppose, is another word people use, isn't it? But I don't know. Yeah, I think I don't know. I think when you've kind of had some sort of contact with that sort of thing, because it's unlike anything else, and I would say it's well worth doing personally. But obviously, I don't want to influence any, set in stone Christians or anything out there.
Don't try this at home.
So
Good.
I think Christianity is great for some people. I think it's, it serves a very useful purpose, but it's just not for me.
Don't blame you, Ken. I think that's part of the journey a lot of us were on, certainly that I was on, and it kind of got me on the road that I met you on. So, that's not too bad. One specific practice, as you were talking about getting specific earlier, so that the audience can understand. One specific practice I've heard you talk about before, and I'd like to kind of get your take on some is transcendental meditation.
Mm-hmm.
You want to
introduce
this concept?
Well, that's nothing to do with the ATO or Crowley or anything, but it's just something I do myself. But oh, there we go. There's the camera. I told you every half an hour. There we go. It's back. So TM, or transcendental meditation, it's just a practice you do twice a day for 20 minutes. It's a meditation, and I like it because it kind of it sort of informs a lot of my creativity these days, if that makes sense. Like, it seems to activate something. And I got into it I'm a huge David Lynch nerd. Like he's the reason I got into film and all this kind of stuff. I love David Lynch. And I heard him talking about it. Then he started this thing called the David Lynch Foundation. And at the time when I was particularly broke, I couldn't afford you have to pay to learn TM. It's not cheap. I saw that the foundation were paying for creatives to learn TM, and so I learned it, and I've been doing it ever since. I've been doing it for like 10 years now, more than that. But I find it's good at kind of balancing you, chills me out, and also kind of gives you a bit of a reset. It's like, it's kind of hard. You should try it if you can afford it.
If you can afford it.
Yeah. It's different to other types of meditation I've tried, put it that way. It's very it seems to be very good at, if you're a creative person, it seems to be very useful for that. It kind of resets my creative side every day, which is kind of nice.
Is it related to, I'm like remembering the story of like the Beatles going to India?
Mm-hmm.
Was that the same kind of meditation they were doing in India?
It was. And they were with the guy, his name, I should know this. The name of the guy that created TM taught the Beatles himself. And so they were, and then they were a bit disturbed to find that he was sleeping with lots of the girls that were there. So I think they quit.
Of course.
But then two of them are still doing it. So Ringo and Paul are both TM advocates. So unfortunately, so's Russell Brand, or was anyway, before he became a fake before he became a fake Christian. But then obviously you have people like David Lynch and good people, as well. So
David Lynch talked about something, and it's just, I think this is the word he used. Me and Audra have often talked about this concept. I think he called it the art life.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any thoughts about that?
If you can do it, it seems to be a good life. It's it's dedicating yourself to doing art as much as possible. It kind of seems to be what the art life is. If you're lucky enough to do that, then that seems to be quite a fulfilling life to me. But as someone that's interested in the arts, but it's I mean, his whole thing. I mean, there's a whole documentary about it, isn't there? With him in it. But yeah, I think that's what he meant by it anyway. I think it's like, spending your entire life painting in his case and making films.
That's right.
Which is
reading the weather.
Get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the weather forecast thing he used to do. Yeah.
It's the most pleasant part of everyone's day. No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Definitely the highlight of the lockdown for me.
Yes.
He did the thing with the balls as well. He'd pick a magic ball each day. Did you see that?
No.
He had two things. He used to do the weather report for ages before lockdown, for a long time on his website. If you join davidlynch.com, I think it was, you could he did the weather report every day on that. But then years later, it was during lockdown, he started doing it again. But he also did a thing where he had a big container full of balls with numbers on, and he'd go, "Today's number is 9." Right? And that was it. He wouldn't say why. That was it.
Of course.
That's all you need to know. Well, that's the thing is you
think
can't don't ask him to interpret what he's doing because he
Oh, yeah.
for him that's you're
Well, I think-
ruining the trick, you know.
I think it's because he doesn't like he's sort of interested in mystery, and so am I. I mean, this idea of is this sort of cynical thing we do in the West now, where we have to know the answer to everything. There has to be a solution at all times. Everything has to be explained, and I hate that. I can't stand it. I like mystery. I like this idea that, you know, because it's what keeps you talking, isn't it? It's what keeps you looking for things, and it's mystery. And this idea of having to know the answer to everything, how boring is that? I don't know. To me, that's, you know, yeah.
Yeah, that's what's led us to have all these movies of like the origin stories and all of these franchises where they over explain and go into so much detail, and it takes the mystery out of the art. And you're right, art is about mystery. It's about those spaces in between answers.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, Lynch's films don't need to make sense. They just are, you know, and you either enjoy them or you don't. And that's the way I sort of see it. And I just happen to enjoy abstractions and, you know, that kind of thing. And it doesn't need to be explained to me. It's just is what it is. And same with like filmmakers like Nicholas Winding Refn or like Jodorowsky or all these sorts of people. You don't need to necessarily know what, you know, sometimes there is stuff to learn in there, you know, but it's, you know, it's the thing itself is good enough for me.
What you need to know is just how did it make you feel?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
That's my takeaway from David Lynch. I remember enjoying his movies even as a teenager when I couldn't even get the basic textual plot of the film or the basic subtext of the film. And I still would be like, oh, I'm enjoying this. This is giving me this weird, uneasy feeling. I've never had this before watching a movie. And
that's what got me into make the idea of, I didn't realize you could make films like that. That's kind of maybe when I saw Blue Velvet, that was the first thing of his I saw. And I just remember thinking, oh, that's interesting. You can make films like that. I didn't know you could make films like that. And that's really in the long run what got me into film. That film, you know. And then music was Mr. Bungle. I mean, I always say they're the two biggest things that kind of, you know, got me into what I'm into now, I suppose, is Bungle and well, Mike Patton, I suppose, and David Lynch.
What a duo.
Well, there it is.
I found a picture of them together recently. There's pictures of the two. Yeah. I found it. It was just after David Lynch died. I think Patton posted it, or someone posted it on a Patton group or something. And I was like, oh wow, I've never seen that. That would have been quite a room to be in.
Well, Ken, I just really appreciate you sharing some of your time with us today. We're all so excited to see some of the new stuff you're doing with Sitting Now and with Hangman Films. And
I think I'm just going to call it all. I think Hangman is probably not going to exist for much longer. I think it's going to be all go under the banner of Sitting Now Media, which is the new thing I'm looking at doing. But yeah, everything is going into Sitting Now at the moment. There's a lot of stuff coming. A lot of stuff. We'll eventually release it, but I keep sort of setting my standards too high for certain things for what I can do on my own. But we'll see.
Awesome. Well, you know, our very next episode after this one, if I'm not mistaken, is going to be about the Cybernetic Culture Research Unit. Also very influenced by, I believe, Kenneth Grant, who you were talking about earlier.
A bit, yeah.
A little bit. And so when I was having some conversations with you earlier, you were talking about maybe doing some material on Sitting Now about that. So we'll definitely be plugging the heck out of that once you're ready to release that episode. So
yeah, I think CCIE is quite a big. I was originally going to do like one episode just talking about them, but they're actually a bit more complicated than I realized originally. Yeah, I think that they're interesting because they play into what's happening now in politics, in mainstream politics as well, and in a way that people don't necessarily know. Sorry, my hat's gone all weird. There we go. That's better. Yeah, so I think there's like the kind of interesting kind of countercultural, I suppose, side to them, or the artistic side to them, but there's also the more sinister political side to them, that well, to what came out of them at least later, and how that's influencing literally the White House right now, and billionaires and things like that, that are also influencing the White House. So it's kind of become this Nick Land has become this kind of shadowy kind of character that's kind of he's interesting but kind of scary.
We'll tune into our next episode to hear this guy underneath me here talk about Nick Land a little bit more.
With all the contempt you could imagine.
You can have the jungle music playing in the background and be on speed when you talk about him. That's him.
It sounded like Dennis Hopper from Apocalypse Now the entire time.
Or the mask from Blue Velvet. You could have that.
We're method podcasters.
That's it. We're Stanislavski lunatics.
Right.
Ken, tell people where they can find you online, other than the QR code next to your head.
Well, youtube.com/sitting now is kind of the hub where I put everything now. Obviously sittingnow.co.uk is if you want just the audio version of the show, you can get it there. And then obviously Apple and Spotify and all that's all covered. We're about to move. We've just been given a deal with iHeartRadio, their new thing. So we're going to be distributed by them soon.
Congratulations.
Which is good. Yeah. So we're on their Prime program, I think it's called, something like that. But so they're going to be hopefully the ads. I mean, if you listen to the audio version of our show, I have no control over where the ads go or anything like that. So we'll be mid-sentence and suddenly an advert will cut in. So we'll have more control over that kind of stuff now. But sitting now on YouTube is really where it's all going to be kicking off the most, though. I think we've got lots of video content coming, that new, not non-podcast video content, which I've been filming for the last 4 months now. So there's lots of it coming. It's just I'm busy editing it at the moment and filming little bits and bobs. And I won't go into that yet. There's a, in case it doesn't have, but there's a kind of character that I built into it as well, which will be apparent when you start watching the videos when they come out. But we'll see.
I have a question. You've got like a couple of different projects happening that are podcasts, though. So what's the Mauve Zone?
So the Mauve Zone's it's named after a Kenneth Grant idea, but it's in a way it's like a modern version, a more up-to-date version of a show we used to do called CCN, or Coincidence Control Network, but with a slightly different angle. So it's a rotating group of people. I suppose the core is me, Joseph Maffini, and David Metcalf, and we've been doing it for a couple of years now, I think. But we don't have a plan. We just turn up and talk about whatever we want, and it's usually kind of about weird stuff. It's quite relaxing after, because I don't have to read a book before doing it, so it's a lot easier to do, which is kind of nice. So it's just whatever we're thinking about at the time. So we'll often talk about, I've been doing a lot of research on a group called the Order of Nine Angles, so I've been talking about them a lot. We've been talking about CCRU. We've been talking about weird, like UFO stuff. It's all that kind of thing. High strangeness, as they like to call it these days. The kids like to call it. And then we've got Sitting Now, obviously, which is our kind of interview show. And then the Greenfield Files, which is once a month. Patreon exclusive, patreon.com/sitting now. I always forget to put the thing in there. It's $5 a month, and you get access to that show, our Discord, which is a private Discord for the Patreons. And then we do, like, if I have a really long episode, I'll cut a chunk of it out and make that exclusive to Patreon, which they seem to like that. So I'll be doing more of that, I think. And then we've got merchandise coming in and all sorts of stuff coming. There's tons of stuff coming. It's just just lining it all up at the moment. Sort of going full Sitting Now.
Damn right. Well, I'm glad to be sharing the internet with you, buddy. It's always been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's good to have you back on podcasts again.
Yeah, it's great to be here, and it's great to have brought some of my friends along with me, and then for us to be able to talk to great friends like you. Ken, I'm sure we'll have you on again. We'll catch you next time.
Yeah, hopefully I wasn't too I was a bit quiet, I felt, but yeah. Anyway, we'll see.
Come on. We'll catch you next time.
Right, see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Pleasure, Ken.
Well, hello.
Hey, we're back.
Yes, we are.
Notice I have more light now than I did when we interviewed Ken.
I'm so happy you've been enlightened.
It must be the occulture. It's done it. So let's bring on the rest of our cast to kind of just do a sort of post interview chat here. Nathan, Ian, you guys around?
Anyone? Anyone? Ah,
Oh, there. Yeah, Ian. There's Ian.
hi, Ian.
Hello, back from the inky void.
Yes,
Good to see you.
the cave is looking good.
As always. Love
Fire
a
still
lovely
lit?
crisp umbra.
Our producer Nathan here as well. So
I need to get some enlightenment, though. You guys look so bright.
aw.
It's a bit foggy in your room.
Yeah, still foggy. We'll tell you. We'll work on that.
It is what it is. You got some depth of field. That's kind of nice. So, me and Audra both been weird and spooky going back decades, but you guys, we've kind of thrown you in the deep end a little bit here with Ken tonight.
Is this where you quit?
Us? Me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no. I'm curious about everything, so this works.
I know, I'm ride or die here. You're going to have to do a lot worse to get me to leave.
You got it. You got it. We will.
Challenge accepted.
Challenge. So, yeah, what did you guys think of that interview? What do you think about some of the issues Ken brought up?
I think he had a lot of interesting, points, a lot of interesting tidbits on all these different, groups and the formation, or I mean, so much the formation, but just the way the occult has sort of seeped through and all these different, important figures within. Nathan.
Okay.
Yeah, no, this is a topic that I'm not familiar with at all. And fully not. And I found it really interesting. And the thing that really stuck out to me at one point was when Ken was kind of talking about, answering that question of what is the occult, and talked about how it's, it's making contact with the divine, and, being different paths to the same destination. So I think that really crystallized it for me a bit. And so I guess I would ask Raymond and Audra in particular, since you are more familiar, you've talked with him and know about him. So where is that in terms of he mentioned like Christianity might be one approach as far as making contact with the divine, other religious traditions. Is it religion? Is it spirituality? Is it one? Is it the other in terms of the occult? How would you define it? What would you say to that?
Yes. Yeah. You
Okay.
goodbye.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it means something different to every single person. Like when he said about finding the divine, and I brought up about finding your higher self.
Mhm.
It all depends on how your brain accesses these wide-ranging ideas. I'm more likely to believe in my higher self than particular entities
Mhm.
hovering around. I don't know. What about you, Raymond?
Well, excuse me. When he asked about religion, I thought of a song lyric. I can't remember if it's the church or its echo in the Bunnymen. There's one song where he talks about it's not a religion, it's just a technique. And
Oh,
that,
interesting.
Yeah.
Of course, you think of a song lyric, Raymond. Of course,
I think the song is called Destination, I think. And it's not a religion, it's just a technique. And, I don't know, like that, maybe that kind of came up in my mind a little bit, that it's a group of practices that different people pull different marbles out of the bag, as it were. Nathan,
interesting.
You mentioned how things sort of weave together over time, that sort of syncretism. And that's present in all religions as well. I mean, everyone, no matter what religion they believe, they like to believe they have the sort of pure, unvarnished, original version, right? But a lot of our ideas are combinations of things that has sort of come down to us culturally and intellectually over the years.
Yeah, and the other question. So, and I don't know if I quite got this, and again, you two might be able to answer this. So, would you say that within the occult there is more sort of, is it very individualistic, kind of like Audrey, you were, I think, talking a bit in terms of how each individual, and Raymond, taking out the marbles, but there's also traditions where folks are kind of unified with sort of the same sort of practices or beliefs at the same time. Is that fair to say? Or where do you see most of it? Is it more individualistic or more part of a group with a similar sort of beliefs and practices?
Well, Raymond, you were part of the Pagan Student Union, so I'm just going to punt that over to you.
No, that's a great. I appreciate that, Audra, for outing me. Now the internet will know.
So sorry.
So no, it's okay. Yeah, back in my college days, and I think I mentioned this in a previous episode, I was part of a pagan student group. And when we talk about something called an occulture, I mean, that means that there's got to be more. It's got to be more than one person. There's got to be some something is shared.
Yeah, it's just one person doing it. That's just a random, crazy person on a side, street corner.
True.
That's true. Now, we're not going to say whether they get results or not. Maybe they get results. Maybe they hit the lottery. I don't know. But maybe they transcend. Maybe they talk to their higher guardian angel. But it's got to be he made the Christian reference earlier, right? In Christianity, there's that concept of when people gather in Jesus' name, he is there. So I think there's the same thing with any kind of spiritual culture. It's one thing I will say, I think we've gotten into some of the general concepts of this. It would be nice to kind of lean into some of the sexiness of it next time, because there's something that's attractive about it. It certainly was for me as a young person, and could be very empowering as well. And I think, I think
spirituality is like the search for self, right? I mean, ultimately, I think that's what is underneath any kind of occult practice is self-improvement. Sure.
Now, sometimes that can go too far, right? I mean, Ken mentioned, and Audra, I wanted to ask you about this. How these subcultures, he said something to the effect of, if you could define any occult groups as counterculture, it would be kind of a right-wing thing.
Yeah.
And how did that make you feel?
It brought up images of Reagan, Steve Bannon, just things that make me wake up screaming. So unfortunately, that's something we're seeing a lot. And of course, there's a million reasons for this, but I think most of all, it's the internet, right? Especially the internet while we were in lockdown. And I feel like the proliferation of fascist ideas, really just it grabbed hold of very lonely people's brains. And so I think that's a big issue. Also with the pandemic, I'd say the whole wellness culture, there's a lot of not trusting the government, for shutting down, for wanting to give you shots, inoculations. So that dovetails right into here too, because people start to look for holistic and frankly occult cures.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, that sort of falls into that horseshoe effect from the cultural side, where we just kind of get so distrusting these of the authority figures or the government, whether economically speaking, these people might be left or right. They find themselves bending back around into a particular brand of woo that, yeah, the pandemic was just such fertile ground for that sort of propaganda in all sorts of different ways.
You know, it isolated us even more than perhaps, especially in American culture, than we already were. And then, you know, and that may be one corollary that we didn't quite get to in the interview with Ken, is that there's this, if we're talking about self-empowerment, right? Like the idea of like initiating through an occult order, or taking control of your life through the magic and prognostication and spells and things like this, that's that sort of personal empowerment on a spiritual plane, right? And that can be taken totally the wrong way, in much the same way, like, you ever meet these people that they like have read too many Ayn Rand novels?
Yep.
Okay, like, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law, right? The Aleister Crowley stuff is, some of that is not that far different from the weird objectivist philosophy that we find in the Ayn Rand novels. And so if we live in a society where we're, in general, over, say, the past 50 years, we've been doing pretty well. People have a lot of roads to self-empowerment, a lot of roads to climbing up the ladder. When we have certain philosophies that say, oh, well, just focus on yourself completely and only, I think it's easy to see, or where it's all about the link between the self and the divine and not necessarily the wider collective or whatever. I think it's easy to see how some of those occult concepts could get co-opted by people who are already have sort of authoritarian mindsets going into it, you know.
That's really interesting. I have to admit something here, though. You said, Raymond, that you were in a pagan student group. I did go to an objectivist group meeting before I knew what it was. I'm like, what is this club? I'll show up. And, you know, before the internet, it's like, how do you, that's how you find out.
Right. How would you?
I was an objectivist, just to be clear, and never had one. Anyway, I'll just circle back around. So I'm fascinated by this idea, this evolution. So if the occult was a counterculture, which was counter to, is it safe to say, at least in this country, counter to a Christian majority, and then now that's evolved now to where, at least what Ken might, if I understood Ken correctly, how you have some of these, how's that changed now? When you have some of these conservative ideas, when, you know, kind of getting back to the politics thing, what is the political leaning of the occult?
Yeah, it's a great question. You know,
I think you can go pretty scattershot with that.
Yeah.
It seems, because like for every, you know, woman in the Subaru with the Wiccan bumper stickers on the back, who you know exactly which ticket she's going to be voting down, you got these assholes that are out there going, I'll see you in Valhalla, brother, which technically derived from pagan worship.
yeah, there's actually, you bring up a good point, because that all of that sort of like neo-folk stuff, very problematic and right-wing, and you know, pro Valhalla.
Right.
But also they don't look kindly on non-white folks.
I'll give a positive other side of that coin for you guys, which is this we're just gonna date the whole thing. Rewind back to 2007. Okay, we're doing the pagan student group, and we wanted to take part in an anti-war march. This was during the Iraq War and the Afghanistan War, and you know, I was one of-
what made that decision? Do you remember at that time?
that. Well, that's what that's exactly.
Yeah.
What I'm
Sorry to
about
interrupt. Go ahead.
No,
ahead.
no. So I was on the executive committee or whatever at the time, and we were like, okay, we're going to put this to the group, and if it is not a unanimous vote of the entire group, we will not participate in the anti-war march. And we made it very clear going into the secret ballot on that one. That was one of the only times we ever did political activism. So when I was there. And it was a unanimous vote for us to march against the war. And there were people of a lot of different spiritual backgrounds and different ages, and some veterans as well. Some people who had actually been to the Afghan war for sure.
So the unifying thing that brought you together then in that group was this paganism, which sounds like it's a big tent, maybe.
Yeah, and especially at the time, yes.
Yeah. So what was there unifying sort of value or belief or something that was like made you all
you hit on it earlier. One of them was we had the slogan "Many paths, one mystery." So that syncretism you were talking about earlier, I think there was no, like, I think 10 or 15 years before that, maybe it was like, we're going to do the Wheel of the Year and all the Gardnerian Wicca stuff and try to take on the trappings of religion. But by the time I was part of the group, it was much more free thinking, and it was much less about having to be one religious practice.
You know,
we'll definitely talk about this at more length, I think, in the future.
One other thing, if I may, too,
when we talk to Mark Tippett, he's one of our upcoming guests. We'll ask him a little bit about the pagan student group experience, because he is a few years older than me and got to see multiple iterations of it as time went on. So I'm sure we'll talk to him about that I think in June he'll be on the show at some point.
Something else again mentioned too that I thought was fascinating when he said about slaying goats and suggesting this is it suggests like, this is a practice that is like, it is looked down upon particularly, or looked, as, particularly maybe countercultural in the sense, or but when I thought about it, I'm like, but if we tie this back to Christianity, being we're still making contact with the divine. I mean, you don't have to go very far into parts of the Bible where there are animals are being sacrificed.
Sure.
And if you really look at it from the outside, at the risk of sounding to some out there, the essence of Christianity, we have the Messiah who was crucified, and not just crucified, something violent happening around, but also then
he's the goat in this analogy.
But literally, for instance, in the Catholic tradition, the transfiguration of the body and blood, the wine and the bread literally becoming through your
transubstantiation, my friend.
Thank you. Through your religious practice becomes the body and blood. Now, from the outside, some folks, if you go way out there and say, okay, so your religion is actually drinking blood and eating the body of your Messiah. So if you look at it that way, are these two things that far apart?
I don't know. I mean, yes, but I don't know anybody that's killed a goat at church. That's what I'm going to say.
I mean, not
recently. We're going to enough churches a little bit further north from where we grew up then.
There you go, right? But now, that said, as me and Audra discovered back when we were doing the Retrophilia podcast, the amount of negative experiences people were having at that church, goat slaying or not, or at those churches, goat slaying or not, was, bad enough, right? So who knows? I don't know. I'm making like value judgments, so we're just trying to make basic comparisons, but whatever. What do you think, Audra?
Oh, I mean, it just brought up the idea that goat slaying is still a valid form of divine expression in groups. I'm going to get this wrong, but I think it's Santeria and Voodoo, Vodun,
Voodoo, yeah.
Voodoo.
Voodoo, yeah.
So that is still acceptable in that culture. It's just no longer acceptable in our particular culture to do that.
Right, exactly. I mean, we're looking back at what First and Second Temple Judaism as the sort of precursor to the goat idea here.
Passover.
And Passover. And that's like 2,000 years ago. I mean, it's been a long time since people have been slaying the goat, except for Aleister Crowley and some other folks.
Just once.
and it was just once.
And sure, and maybe I'm drawing connections that don't exist, but at the same time, we say, oh, that was a long time ago, 2,000 years ago. But at the same time, there are folks that are going back, two verses away from that description within the Old Testament, and they're pulling something out, cherry picking something out, and saying this is very relevant to now.
Yes, and then they're putting that on ballot measures and,
exactly.
and initiatives and things. Yes.
Yeah.
So I guess
that usually just boils down to the fact they have no better argument to justify it than because my dad said so.
No, would Dad be God?
Yes.
Okay. Cool. Yeah,
effectively.
got it.
yeah, because he's
Our Heavenly
obviously
Father.
male, as we all know. But with the big white beard. So, but I guess when we talk about counterculture, though, it's fascinating that Christianity being, I think it's safe to say, at least for the majority of this, since this country was founded, has been the major religious tradition in one way or another, and I'm not putting any valid judges. I'm just trying to say that has been, but at the same time, so you would say, well, a counterculture would be pushing back against that, right?
Sure.
Could
But in that case, you would have to have a specific and whole culture based on that. One of the things with Christianity in America, I think you would have to argue, is that there's never been one branch of Christianity that's controlled all of America. That's never been a Catholic America. There was never a Baptist America or Methodist America or Lutheran America or Church of Latter-day Saints America. So you can't really say that, oh, this culture, this specific group's culture has become so dominant that this other one came up. Like, that's happened a lot before in Christian history. Like, I have a whole shtick I want to do about the Anabaptists in one of these episodes, but like, I don't think that's really been able to occur in America, because we've just always been kind of a calico of Christianity.
Yeah, Christianity. All different flavors of Christianity. Being someone that grew up outside of that, it feels, America felt very Christian when I was growing up.
Oh yeah,
and
certainly.
there was no place, of course, wherever you grow up, but there is no place for like some Jewish kid or a Muslim kid, to be in school and not hear about Christ or have to do Christmas things. And I'd say it's still a Christian country.
But even with that stuff, like the things like putting it on our money and the Pledge of Allegiance, like that's only existed since the 50s. Like the fact that my granddad would have never had to say, give his oath to God, the Pledge of Allegiance, is kind of upsetting, because it's like that's just something that they slipped in the 1950s when the beginning of what the conservative movement that we have now, when they were first really trying to build up steam, that was one of the first things they did. And part of it also was in the response of trying to make sure that they couldn't be mistaken for those godless
the Red Scare.
We're talking about one nation instead of one nation indivisible, which was the original.
Now it's under
one
God.
nation under God.
That was added in
53 or whatever,
something like that.
Well, I think we should revisit this topic of American Christianities maybe in the future. Obviously, the Latter-day Saints and the beehive symbol from the 19th century, there's a lot to unfold there. And then certainly the progression from Episcopalianism to Methodism to Evangelicism, but one becoming dominant one after another as American history progressed.
And then how that
But
plays into countercultural.
Yeah, because aspects of these movements, well, not the Episcopals, obviously, because they're just the Anglicans, so they're just bringing the mother church over from England. But like with the Methodists and later the Evangelicals, there were things that were counter to the broader culture as they're becoming popular.
Or at least the broader Christian, the dominant Christian culture.
Yes, exactly. And so all that said, I kind of want to circle back around to what Audra was saying earlier about how there are many of us in American society that belong to groups where that Christian set of Christian identities doesn't really fit. And what was the concept of a culture something that might have seemed like an alternative for you, Audra, to some of these religious experiences you were seeing other people have around you when you were younger?
Yeah. I mean, when you're pushed to the even further outside by the dominant culture, you tend to, I don't know, at least I tended to really go for it and be like, oh, okay. So, I mean, people would tell me as a kid, like, I'm sorry, but you're going to go to hell because you don't accept Jesus Christ. I was at a sleepover party once when that happened. And I was like, I'm going to call my mom.
Not exactly what you're looking forward to in the sleepover party.
No, but it's like all of those kind of, I don't know, I guess they're microaggressions or not so micro. There comes a point when you just like, you know what? Yeah, I am a Satanist. I am going to hell. And I'm 16. You know?
Yeah, baby.
Yeah.
But you know, you start identifying with that because anything to not be one of them.
Yeah. It's like, I don't want any part of that.
And for me, it was exactly the opposite, Audra, where like I was not part of the out group. I was a little wasp princeling growing up with all kind of privilege. But that religious trauma still there, affecting me too. And so once I was free, once I was living on my own in college on my own, you know, they didn't have ex-evangelicals yet, which people talk about a lot now, right? People who once had that identity and are trying to free themselves from it, all that kind of stuff. So just like for you, like something like a pagan student group seems like, well, you know what you're not going to get. You know what I mean?
This is interesting because you both coming from, is it safe to say, different places, right?
That is safe.
But then coming at least somewhat towards a similar or related place in terms of looking at the occult as an alternative to either what you were in or what you were being faced with. I think that's kind of fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all like we want greater meaning. Like, who doesn't want greater meaning? Right. And if you can't find it in the religion you were born into, you know, you look elsewhere.
Would you mind me asking you about that? Like, why was it a culture and not synagogue for you?
Because occult was way cooler, and I wanted to like see ghosts and talk to dead people. But then you get a little older. And then you start to hang out with people that claim they have seen dead people. And then and then you realize they're just mansplaining warlocks. And then am I getting too personal here?
I just didn't want you to feel uncomfortable was all.
This is your platform. You can be as personal as you want. That is your decision.
Wow, we have recorded for 8 hours so far.
That's right. Okay, guys.
Can I ask one last thing, if I may?
Right.
And this is maybe on the lighter side. And so when the topic of mystery came up, and Audra, you mentioned how you were frustrated how mystery has been lost in storytelling, all these origin stories.
I blame Marvel. Yeah.
I that is fascinating. I did not expect that we would come in that conversation you had from the occult all the way to like mystery and and origin stories, and our storytelling or prequels, the obsession with prequels, which I think goes along with that. Is there more to discuss with that too, as far as the loss of the idea of mystery?
Absolutely.
And what does it mean that our storytelling? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. I just agree. I'm agreeing with you. And yeah, I think that goes under, art creation, maybe more than occult, but I'm sure we could, sorry, there was a cat in front of my screen.
Oh, well, it was, this wouldn't be complete if there wasn't an unwanted, I would say unwanted, but unexpected fifth member of hosting.
Yes, she has some answers for us.
We're going full screen with just your camera the next time that happens. That's my.
So where do cats fit in on the?
That's right.
They are the ultimate gods.
That's right, according to the Egyptians, anyway.
So,
wow, I feel like we had the interview with Ken, and then this whole other episode of discussion has blossomed since then. Guys, thanks for sticking around tonight. And if you've been watching on the live stream, thanks for watching our 90-minute episode this week. Woo. So
yes, thank you. And please get in touch with us if you have any ideas for future shows, or if you want to continue the conversation in any way possible.
That's right. And that's right. You can subscribe, YouTube, obviously this is video, and then it'll be on all the podcast directories here soon once we've had a couple of episodes under our belt. And then I got a Substack as well, the Fourth Space Raymond Wiley Substack, still kind of working on it, getting it going. So we'll have some extra bonus material and stuff coming for you guys on that soon. And then Audra has got a Substack of her own where she features her fiction that she writes. Audra, what was the title of your most recent story on Substack? Do you remember?
Oh, I mean, I just sent one out recently kind of about this show.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah. But I not just fiction, but just if you want to stay in touch and find out what the next project is, and when I'm performing live, or if I have something published, that's where to go. And that's Audra Wolfman. That is my real name, Audra Wolfman at Substack.
All right. Thanks, Audra. Well, I guess that's enough show for 1 week, folks.
Oh, and we do have a QR code here too as well.
Oh, yes. Even though we've run over, I will be hanging out in the Discord voice channel on our Discord. So hit the QR code over there if you want to join us in there. And I guess we'll see you either there or we'll see you next week. So my name is Raymond Wiley.
I'm Audra Wolfman.
I'm Ian.
Who are you people again?
Just some guys.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for us. We got to remember to play the outro music this week.
We will.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.